So one of the other things that, people that are new to horses, or actually a lot of people that have known horses forever, have just never used a rope halter. So I used to always demonstrate this and still do so. Catching a horse in the paddock, I get people to put the rope over their necks, mainly just so that if the horse walked away, you can easily hold on to it. You can grab him on the way out. This is a really super long lead rope, but never mind. And for the halter to be arranged in your hand so it's ready to go. And this was something that I saw another volunteer do. She was catching horses really well. Nobody really had a chance to show me anything at RDA because they're all too busy. But I watched people do things, and I watched this volunteer catching horses, and I thought, how is she doing it? And it looks so streamlined and easy. And this is how she do it. So she put the rope over his neck first, and if he wanted to do it off, she'd pick him up, like, hey, hang on. She had the halter so that the noseband part was in her hand and the part that went over his pole was lined up. And then she'd literally just reach underneath, and she reaches over the top, and you take the bit that goes over the pole, and that part's already in your hand, so you can just put the nose, and voila, there it is. Now the knot is always a mystery for people, and how to adjust it. So putting on a halter, and yeah, this isn't a bad fitting one. You've got to make sure that the halter is actually the right size for the horse, and this one isn't too bad for Mr. Dylan. But what you want is for the knot, sorry, that is sitting underneath the jowl to be up firm. Now I know it looks really high up and tight, but it's not going to stay there because by the time I do the knot, it'll slip out. But also this line needs to be behind the jowl, not sitting over here, not down low like that, because that's where you can cause a lot of damage, obviously. That cartilage part is attached to the bone. It's fragile. If you lead a horse like that and he shies or rears or does anything, you're going to snap it. It's very uncomfortable. So it's a matter of getting that in the right position first. I do wiggle it around to make sure I've got both sides. I can feel the other side, that it's sitting there. The knot's in the middle and high up. This is in a good position for him. And then it's just a D shape. Well, I say a D. It's a capital letter D, just to be precise. Putting the rope that goes over the pole through that loop, and then I imagine the loop is the back of the D, and that's the D letter, and then I put the rope, tie it through there. Now the reason that we tie it here and not above, there's a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is that if ever a horse does, if they're tied up somewhere and they rear and pull that tight, as they snap off a tie on or something, if it's tied here, because that bottom one is a loop, it's always possible to undo it. It doesn't matter how tight it gets. I've never, ever lost a halter to that. Like, the loop is always just a loop. You've always got a bit of give in it. It takes a bit of time sometimes, and you've got to really work it through, but it's always going to have give. If you tie it up to the top, which is, I've seen a lot of people do this, people that have been around horses for years, often do this. And if you tie it up there and they both lock on, that's now locking on itself. It's like a knot on a knot, and there's no way that you can undo it. So what happens is people end up having to cut the halter off. So that's the first thing, is to understand that tying it to this bit is better, because it does untie things easier. But the other part of it is that that's kind of fixed as well. It doesn't flap around as easily. This kind of moves a bit, and it can easily flick the end of the lead rope, not the lead rope, of the halter into his eye. So, you can tuck it here and it stays put, and it's not going to bother anyone. It's quite easy to keep in the right spot. So, halter tying is something that I was surprised that a lot of people didn't know when they first started volunteering. The other thing that I was, even people that were very experienced didn't understand about how to pick up a foot. And this is, again, for people that had no horses and had an interest in it, I'd show them all of this, and I still do. Showing them the chestnut and showing them that if you squeeze the chestnut, the foot comes up. Like, a lot of people didn't realise that. They try and grab them around here and lift and all the rest, and horses, mostly with their front legs, just don't actually understand what you're trying to say when you do that. But if you squeeze, just that little pinch, and off he goes. He lifts it up for me. He's such a legend. You're such a good boy, aren't you? Oh, yes, you are, Dylan.